Hello everyone and welcome to my first YouTube video on how I play Mirage, along with some explanations of my build and my thought process. Before we start, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Chigot. His YouTube guides helped me to get to where I am today, and I highly recommend checking out his channel. I'll leave a link in the description below because he explains Mirage mechanics really well. Just want to apologize in advance also because I don't really speak much English here. I come from Germany, so there might be some pauses in my head where I'm busy doing some translation. Yeah, so let's go on. Yeah, so as you can see over here, my main equipment is Malice. One of the biggest problems I had was actually figuring out how much cooldown reduction I actually needed. I tried going for the 300 cooldown reduction together with swiftness to increase the damage, but I realized it actually dealt less damage than destruction. So I changed back to destruction and I reduced then the cooldown reduction. The problem is that Mirage's ulti has such a long cooldown, and so no matter how much cooldown I had, I couldn't get more than 3 ultimates within 1.5 minutes. So I realized, okay, fine, 2 ultimates is enough. So I removed all the cooldowns that I didn't need and I changed it to critical rate. The 2 most important stats that you always pay attention to are critical rate and critical damage. I chose Malice because of the destruction. It gives me like the extra slot where I can equip destruction at level 9. You guys maybe have noticed I'm actually going for the sentimental equipment at the moment instead of shimmering, because after doing some research I found out that this second upgrade to sentimental increases your finisher by about 100,000%. Yes, it's 100,000%, not 1,000. I'll show you later at the end of the video. And this will do really well because I think most of the damage Mirage gets from is actually his finisher. Chigot explains it really well why Mirage became a burst class damage, and yeah, it just has a really long cooldown, and that's why I want to extract as much damage from the ultimate as possible. And the good thing about it is that sentimental actually has a lot of boss damage percentages, which are actually really expensive with the new insignias. The new insignias. So that's why I'm actually also going for sentimental, because also that I can save some money, and also at the same time it gives some like defense stats which helps me survive raid even more. For pets, I use 2 pets, Pot and Dragon. This combination gives me the highest overall damage. For cards, I'm currently using the standard setup that most players are running at the moment. For my insignias, I'm mostly using the stand-ups as well. The only difference is I use 1 Ophelia instead of 2. And after testing, I found out that 1 Ophelia gives me enough cooldown reduction to cast 2 ultimates within 1.5 minutes, which lines up really nicely to most raids DPS phases. Circuits, most of my cooldown reduction actually comes from my circuits. For example, helmet gives me cooldown reduction, my gloves have cooldown reduction, and my shoes give me cooldown reduction. The remaining stats you generally want are critical damage, umbral damage, and critical rate and magic damage. I prefer getting my cooldown reduction from circuits because it's much more cheaper than stacking up through inscriptions. And another reason I'm using sentimental is because it provides a large amount of boss damage, so I don't have to invest heavily into the new insignias as everyone are doing at the moment. For outfit, I'm using the stand-up setup that most players are using. This setup provides an insane amount of boss damage or increased damage overall. I had like a power spike after I got this complete set. If I'm not mistaken, honestly, upgrading the outfit was one of the... Yeah, there was just a huge power spike after that. I do have 2 types of equipment setups. So I have Mind War. Mind War only uses your base stats, meaning that all the bonus attributes from equipments aren't carried over. And because of that, I use pot and cat for my pets. I'll show you guys quite soon. So here, Mine War, yeah, so pot and cat. And cat gives the additional critical rate, which is more valuable inside Mine War. I also swap all my circuits from a cooldown reduction to critical rate instead. For example, my helm gives me critical rate, my gloves gives me critical rate, and my shoes also give me critical rate. Your priority for Mind War should be critical rate and defense. These are the two stats that make a huge difference because everyone's dealing a massive amount of damage in Mind War. I'm still working on optimizing this setup, so it's definitely a work in progress. I'll quickly show you what the stats look like in Mind War so you guys can understand why these two setups are the way it is. Yeah. All right, let me show you quickly what my stats look like. So outside Mind War currently I have my critical rate at 120 and critical damage at 300. But once I end the Mind War, all my bonus equipment attribute disappears because only the base stats are counted. So with Mind War setup, my stats become roughly around 1 second. Attributes. So my critical rate becomes 54% and my critical damage at 58. That's why I use the pots at Mind War to help me also increase those stats. These are my rotations from Chi God also explains, and yeah, thank you for watching.